Hello, brothers and sisters of the world. We are distant by distance, but united by beer and football. So join us for a catch-up on all the week's Serie A drama. Round up the European action, our thoughts ahead of Juve Milan, another send-up of Inter's marketing team, plus all your usual honourables and dishonourables, good week, bad week, and a Predictions League update on this episode of Scudetto. Hello and welcome back to Scudetto. Coming to you one day late this week due to the large volume of fantastic midweek games, which I'm looking forward to talking about shortly. Unfortunately, that does mean that we're recording during the Sassuolo and versus Torino game. 0-0 currently, just at the start of the second half, but we will come back to that later in the episode and give you a snap reaction. Obviously, we're not really watching it as we're recording a podcast. Should just quickly mention, before we go to the civilized beers section, Kenny, as I predicted, you had an absolute shocker in the Tifosi Down Under Predictions League.
Yeah, but I got one of the results called right that you were doubting.
You did get a score spot on, but overall you did worse than me. So dishonourable, early dishonourable.
That's like scoring a wonder goal in a 5-1 defeat.
Yeah, still celebrate it.
Yeah. Anyway, I'm not sure whose go it is to go first. I feel like we let Boaz go first last week, so Kenny. I'm just kidding. It's Boaz's turn to go first. Boaz,
Finally.
How are you this week?
I'm doing very well. It was the Jewish holiday of Yom Kippur this week, and everything is shut. The roads are shut, so I ran 18 kilometers on the highway, which was quite exciting.
Doesn't sound very exciting.
Well, it's just nice to run somewhere where normally you'd never even get close to.
Yeah, I guess so. And what sort of beer are you drinking this evening?
I'm cracking open one of these weird ones that I purchased towards the end of last season, and this is a sour wheat beer, and it's so fancy that it has a different name in Hebrew to the name in English. The English name is Purplicious, and it's apparently it's got some sort of berry in it as well. So I'm probably going to hate it, but here goes nothing.
What's the name in Hebrew?
Magical Cassis. Complete no relation to the English name at all.
Yeah, a little bit. Cassis, isn't that blackcurrant, which is purple?
Okay, it's tenuous.
Yeah, it's tenuous. They've obviously done some market research. Got names that appeal to different audiences. Anyway, good. We'll look forward to hearing about that one later. Kenny, how about you? How are you doing?
I'm doing good, Oscar. We've had workmen in our house this week putting in a new bathroom, so it's been a bit of upheaval. But the guy who was doing it, or one of the guys who was doing it, is actually an Atalanta fan from just outside Bergamo. So he was spitting feathers at some of the refereeing decisions in the Atalanta-Fiorentina game at the weekend, which I actually thought were spot on. But
I was going to say, did you put him right? And did you tell him you're also an Atalanta fan?
Did you tell him to subscribe to this podcast?
Yeah. Did you tell him he was going to get sent up in the intro?
I mean, I think this guy was a plumber. He might just have been a fan of the show who turned up at my door. Who knows?
Yeah, possibly. We'll find out in a couple of weeks if the plumbing work is actually kosher. Anyway. What have you got to drink?
Yeah, so I feel like I'm slightly letting the side down here because I can't pretend that this is a craft beer. It's obviously I'm still on my non-alcoholic kick, and the choice is quite limited. And obviously I had Brewdog for the last couple of weeks, so I've got myself a Peroni Libera, which is Peroni's non-alcoholic beer, and it kind of tastes like quite a lot of the other non-alcoholic lagers. It's drinkable and tastes a bit like beer.
Yeah, it needs to be very cold, I find.
Yeah.
Yeah, you've missed the memo in a couple of ways this evening because Boaz and I, obviously, there's no video on this podcast, both turned up in white t-shirts and we're both drinking wheat beers. I've got a Kaski, which is a Finnish wheat beer from the Takatalo and Tompuri brewery. So it's a new one, haven't had it before. Drunk a little bit of it already. It's tastes like wheat beer. Not much more to add.
Nice one. I'll probably be back on the normal beers next week, so maybe I'll bring a wheat beer along and just be a week late on it.
Okay. Make sure you wear your white t-shirt as well.
I will do.
Okay, so let's talk about the Italian clubs in Europe this week, because a bit of a mixed results in the Champions League and the Europa League, and also the European Conference Farmers League. Which games did you watch, Kenny? Who do you think had the best week? And overall, was it a good or was it a bad week for Italian teams in Europe?
Well, I mean, like you said, it was a mixed week. I mean, I caught most of the games, to be honest. The ones that I didn't see live, I had quite a bit of time available yesterday evening to kind of go back after the Napoli game to watch the extended highlights of quite a lot of the other ones. I mean, I think who played the best? I mean, Napoli absolutely played Leicester off the park. They were just astonishing, and Leicester were very good on the break. So I'm not saying they didn't deserve to score the goals they scored, but I mean, if Napoli had come away without anything from that game, it would have been a travesty. And Osimhen was just absolutely unplayable in that game. So even though they only got a draw, Napoli were probably the side that I was most impressed with. But yeah, I mean, like you said, some good results there. Roma beating CSKA Sofia 5-1 in the, as you referred to it, the Farmers League. Juve as well, getting a comfortable win against Malmo. Although actually, start of that, I would have said that Malmo looked like they were probably the more likely to score, but then kind of ended up just capitulating really, and some absolutely horrific defending. But yeah, one of the games I watched live was the Atalanta game, and you're seeing signs that Atalanta are coming back as well. I mean, really mixed week. I'll leave Boaz to speak about the Milan game because that was an absolute cracker of a game as well. But yeah, just all round, despite the fact that there weren't that many victories, I felt like there was quite a lot to kind of celebrate in the performance of most of the Italian teams.
Yeah, we should come to Buzz because, I mean, a disappointing result in the end at Anfield, but great to be back in the competition, right, Buzz?
It was definitely exciting to hear that infamous theme song. And of course, the actual game was very exciting, more so for the neutral probably. Overall, I think undoubtedly the better team won, and Liverpool's experience ultimately showed. Let's not forget that this is a team that won this competition just 2 years ago, and with largely the same squad that they played last night or a few nights ago. And whereas in contrast, Milan had 6 players debuting in the competition for the first time. To put that into context, Divock Origi has more Champions League appearances than the entire starting 11 for Milan yesterday. But more to the point,
that's a good stat.
As referenced by our good friend Milan Obsession, Liverpool's just their wage spending is almost twice as much as Milan's is. So Milan were really the underdog, and it sounds funny to say that about a club like Milan, but they were the underdog in this game, and I think they acquitted themselves pretty well. They did give Liverpool a slight scare, but ultimately, as I said earlier on, the superior quality of the opposition showed. Overall, great signs and some great individual performances. Milan can leave this game with their head held up high.
Yeah, we'll look forward to seeing them in the return leg. Hopefully, you have Zlatan Ibrahimovic back
or Giroud.
Yeah, one or the other back for that fixture. What did you make of that one, Kenny?
I mean, Boaz said that the superior quality of the opposition shone through. I mean, it was very, very close. Milan could equally have gone on to win that game as well. I mean, undoubtedly Liverpool looked the stronger, or were the stronger for 42 minutes or however many minutes it was of the first half. But when Milan were ahead, it's not like Liverpool looked like the only team likely to score. Milan had their chances as well. I think it's great to see them back in the competition. And I think one of the things that's been mentioned it's one of the Italian radio shows that I listen to, is that this is like a starting point for Milan, that when you look at the age of the team, they're building things in a different way, a more sustainable way, that there's no need to be downhearted at all by this. Some really, really encouraging signs, and a young team, and things just really moving in the right direction for Milan.
Yeah, for sure. We should quickly mention how the other Milan side got on as well. Inter did look quite good against Real, didn't they? That tackle from Skriniar. Was it on Vinicius that was being shared around on social media?
Yeah.
They defended really well, and just not quite clinical enough.
Yeah, Inter went in at halftime, and they should have been leading by maybe 2 goals or 3 goals even. And they started the second half slightly stronger than Real as well, but ultimately Real came strong towards the end and probably started to dominate the second half. Overall, a draw might have been a slightly more fair result, but Inter can leave this game with their heads held up high, and with the result in the other game in this group, with Shakhtar Donetsk losing, I think this is not a big drama. And also in the past, Inter, the last time they qualified from the groups, they lost the first game in the group, so maybe it's a strange good omen.
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of the theme of it, isn't it? And I know, obviously, Boaz in particular will be keen to speak about the Lazio performance as well. But that's kind of the theme. Even though Inter lost, even though Milan lost, even though Atalanta drew and came very close to losing, were it not for a wonder save from Musso at the death against Villarreal, they were all like really encouraging performances. I mean, Inter could have easily won that game. Milan were definitely, not chasing the game the whole time at Anfield. Atalanta, for the first half an hour of the first half and the first 15 minutes of the second half, were absolutely bossing Villarreal. So, only one of those teams got 1 point out of those, but nonetheless, the performances were good. It was entertaining football and good football.
And on the subject of Juventus, this is actually their first clean sheet since March. So, I mean, that's quite a scary stat if you think about it. And okay, it came against lowly Malmo, but it is a stepping stone for what is to come.
Yeah. And should we talk about the one performance which can't really be described as very good? Lazio looked pretty flat, didn't they, Baz?
We've always said from the beginning of the season that it would take some time for Sarri's methods to kind of embed in the team. I also kind of mentioned last week that perhaps the result in the first 2 games were they were showing Lazio in a better light than what they were. And ultimately, Lazio were dominated by Milan in the game in the league over the last weekend. It was a very impressive performance from the Rossoneri, but in equal amounts, you could say that Lazio didn't quite show up on the day. And ultimately, the midfield was bossed and they didn't create that many chances. Since I'd like to mention XG stats, Lazio only had a 0.3 XG in that game, whereas Milan had a 3 XG considering the penalty that was missed by Frank Kessie. So Lazio really need to... It will take some time to understand what Sarri wants from them. But this performance in Turkey will probably be best remembered for the amazing goal that was scored. I don't know if either of you want to describe it, but it was something else, and I've never seen anything like it.
Yeah, so I think it was a Chadby who tried to clear it, completely miscued the clearance. It went sort of flying up into the air, and then Strakosha did his best to impersonate. I think it was Paul Lopez in the Rome derby a couple of seasons ago, and managed to throw the ball into his own net. I can only hope. I really hope that he just lost the ball in the floodlights or something. But I mean, wow. In Italian, there's a word paperata, which is invented for this very scene. It was just it was almost Benny Hill like. And
this seems to be a trait that is associated with keepers in Rome, because Mauro Goicoechea of Uruguay did pretty much the same thing when he was playing for Rome in the early part of the 2010s. You should check this video out on YouTube because it's just as funny as the Strakosha one.
Yeah, and another blow to Lazio after obviously a defeat against Milan, and then Sarri getting himself sent off at the end of that game for his remarks towards, was it Salamakers?
Yeah, apparently Salamakers went past the bench and said something, and then Sarri remonstrated against him, and Salamakers did this kind of hip-hop pose, check this guy out, or who the hell is this old man? And Sarri did not seem to appreciate that at all and went off on one. And then once he was sent off, he apparently was blasphemous against the referee as well. So he's got himself too much ban as a result.
Very, very silly, but very funny. Yeah, Kenny, you mentioned briefly, obviously, we talked about Napoli playing very well and Roma getting their 5-1. Do you think we maybe underestimated these two teams domestically a little bit? Gary Lineker tweeting after the Leicester game that he thinks Napoli are in with a shout at the title certainly weren't really on our radar as title contenders, were they?
No, I didn't. I have to be honest and say that I probably still don't think Roma are title contenders, but Napoli, I think, I don't know, they're the team that have impressed me the most out of the teams that have brought in sort of new managers. I think that's now 13 games unbeaten in competitive matches. And that's obviously, again, in Italy, they have a saying that 13 is lucky if you have it. So Napoli will be probably quite confident going into the weekend. But yeah, they just look so good. And Spalletti's really got them firing on all cylinders. And to watch Insigne as well, I've already talked a bit about Osimhen, but to watch Insigne the other night against Leicester, just like his work rate was absolutely sensational. And being the smallest man in the park, putting in some defensive covering runs and last-ditch tackles like he did, and then being instrumental in the other end of the pitch as well. And it has to be said, Boaz pointed out a couple of weeks ago, I'm not sure if it was on one of the episodes or if it was on, or if it was just in our WhatsApp chat, but Anguissa looks like an absolute bargain. I think it's a few 100,000 on loan with the option to buy for 15 million or something. But he looks really, really impressive as well. Koulibaly has looked back to his best. He's just got them just absolutely on song. Roma, I don't want to discredit them. I think some of their results they've kind of got perhaps a little bit lucky. I mean, the Sassuolo game, taking it right to the death like that. The first game, obviously, as well, against Fiorentina.
Didn't you know, Kenny, when it's a Mourinho team, it's not lucky, it's the game plan?
Yeah, well,
not sure
the game plan was
for them to score in the last minute. Yeah.
Well, but I mean, Fiorentina with Dragowski coming out in like the 12th minute or something and getting himself sent off, and then taking until well into that game to kind of, put the game beyond Fiorentina as well. I'm not convinced that Roma are title contenders. They might well figure in the Champions League qualifying race. But Napoli, I think maybe we have, kind of overlooked them a little bit. They look really, really good to me.
Baz, do you want to give Roma some praise? Because I personally am finding it difficult.
So, first of all, I want to say that much like we said a few episodes ago, that perhaps what Roma lacked was a manager in the style of Mourinho. It is perhaps equal to say that Napoli needed someone like Spalletti, and with the players at his disposal, he's able to play exactly the kind of football that he dreams of at night. By the way, Spalletti is a very strange man. I've said this on past episodes, but his social media presence is something else, and he's a lovable weirdo, but a fantastic coach. And I think perhaps with the exception of the left-back role, the squad is very complete, and they didn't lose anyone, partly because of the pandemic, but also because this is kind of a consolidation of this cycle. Special praise has to go out for KK Koulibaly, who Kenny mentioned earlier, but who's back to his best and clearly one of the best centre halves in Italy for sure, if not Europe. And of course, his goal was what ultimately gave them the victory against Juventus on the weekend. But besides that, he was also imperious at the back, and it bodes well for Napoletani all over.
Right. So you're going to make me give kudos to Mourinho, aren't you?
I'm happy
Nicely sidestepped, Boaz.
I'll jump in. I've been very impressed by Roma's Mourinho. Less so for the play, but more for the spirit shown by the players. The fact that he seems to have built that camaraderie that maybe was missing in his last couple of roles. The players, by all accounts, seem to want to play for him and want to jump through a wall for him, which is reminiscent of his Inter side. Of course, it's all fine and dandy to praise your coach when you've won 6 games in a row, and this maybe will be up for appraisal once the calendar gets a little bit harder for them. But so far, I think his whole demeanor, everything about Mourinho has been a lot of fun so far this season. So I'm loving it.
Yeah. I would probably also. I mean, I was loving it 6 games in at Spurs as well. I'm not gonna revise my opinion yet, but I'm open to changing it.
You won't get fooled again. Is that what you're saying?
Well, I'm open to changing it, but it's going to take more than that to fool me again. All right, let's talk about arguably the game of the weekend. Well, definitely the game of the weekend, really, isn't it? Juve Milan on the Saturday night. Sort of contrasting moods in the camps as they head into this weekend's game. Obviously, Juve having a very disappointing start to the season. Milan, I think, still got a perfect record, have they, Baz?
Yep.
One of the 3 teams with a perfect record. How are you kind of feeling heading into this one? Obviously, coming off the back of a good win against Lazio. What are you expecting from this game?
I think Milan probably spent a lot of energy on both traveling and, of course, in the game against Liverpool, where initially, at least, it looked like Liverpool were going to bulldozer the Milan defense. From a calendar perspective, I mentioned it last week, but this set of games, Lazio, Liverpool, Juve, probably is not ideal. Having said that, I think Milan are playing some great football at the moment, particularly in the league. The players are fairly interchangeable. And even though Zlatan will definitely be out with unknown injury, which is quite unfortunate. For the first time ever, we heard Zlatan speak like a human being when he said that I'm not Superman anymore, which kind of broke my heart because I like Zlatan's alter ego on social media. But and with Giroud also supposedly missing with a back injury, Milan are going to have to rely on Rebic and Leao again, who have both been impressive in the last 2 seasons and particularly impressive this season. And so I don't have any fear before this game. Having said that, Kenny said before the Napoli-Juve game last week that eventually Juventus were going to have to come good. And I honestly hope that this is not the game where that happens. Chiesa was rested in the Napoli game and also in the game in Europe, and he's back. And those of us who remember, he really tormented Theo Hernandez last year and scored a wonder goal in this fixture. So
I thought you said Chiesa's been arrested.
Has he?
Yeah, but arrested makes a lot more sense. Sorry.
So Chiesa will be back, and
yeah, Chiesa will be back, but it still looks like both Zlatan and Giroud are going to be out for Milan, right?
Definitely Zlatan, and Giroud will be on the bench, but it's uncertain how much he will participate.
And how big in the terms of the title race do we think this game is, Kenny? It's obviously early in the season, but if Juve lose here, they're really, really dropping off the pace, aren't they?
Yeah, that's the thing. I think this is the first game, and it might sound ridiculous to say it 4 games into a season, but this is the first game that could potentially have implications on the sort of title race and the Champions League race at the end. Normally the way football works is that that narrative gets ripped up and there's like a surprise result, and Juve would surprise result. Juve are at home, so you would expect them to be favourites going into it. But if Milan can get all 3 points, then Juve would be 11 points behind them, and 11 points at any time of the season is a long way back, really. I don't think it's what Juve's board had in mind when they brought Allegri back. I have to say as well that I don't think that Juve's season would be over. I still think Allegri will turn it around.
I hope it's not over after 4 games.
Exactly. But I mean, it's a very, very long way back.
Yeah,
and
sure.
Again, if you've got teams like Napoli picking up full points as well, and Roma on this run with Mourinho, Inter have only dropped 2 points. So it is one thing. I've said this before. It's one thing to make up a big gap on one team, but to start with 11 points behind and 9 points behind all of those teams would be very, very difficult to see how they enter into the title scenario. The other thing I guess to mention is the similarities of or the contrasting situations of the two clubs. Milan obviously have had their dark clouds before with the financial situation and the team performing well below expectations and well below what they should be given the amount was spent on the squads over the years. Juve released their financial results either today or yesterday as we record. And I think, I might be wrong, but I think I'm right in saying that it's the biggest loss ever reported by an Italian club. Boaz,
Correct.
You were across that, yeah. Yeah, so that's kind of, in the bigger picture, kind of quite worrying.
It is definitely quite worrying, but I guess we should just caveat that by saying they're reporting the results for a year in which we had a pandemic. Most clubs reported a loss, and the club with the biggest revenues in Italy, Juve, likely to have the biggest losses when those things go away and the costs obviously remain higher.
That's true, but we are still at 50% capacity in the stadiums. We don't know what's going to happen with pandemic waves throughout the winter. It could be that the Italian season gets played in front of 50% capacities. It could be that there's another season of like heavy losses on top of that. And so, yeah, one bad season, fair enough, but it comes back to this thing that we were saying about the Super League. Clubs are spending beyond their means. They have to cut their cloth accordingly, and you would think that if there is another season like that, there's going to be a fire sale at the end of it, because they're going to have to do something to address it.
For sure.
And a few stats about this game. Milan are the team that Juventus have lost most games against in Serie A ever, and also the team that they've drawn against the most. Still, they've won more games than they've lost, so there's that in their credit. If Juve were not to win this game, this would only be the fourth time in their history that they don't win in any of their first 4 games of the season. If they lose this game, it would be the first time in their history that they lose 3 out of the first 4 games in the season. And in contrast, if Milan were to win this game, it would be only the third time that they win their first 4 matches in the season. Once with Fabio Capello in 95-96 and once with Stefano Pioli last year. I should also say that pod favorite Paulo Dybala has scored 5 goals against Milan at the stadium. His favorite target in the home stadium. I should also say that Zlatan Ibrahimovic, who unfortunately won't play here, the Alliance Stadium is one of the only 2 stadiums where he has played more than 2 games and hasn't scored in.
There you go. So plenty of narrative going into that game this weekend. We should just do a quick roundup of the narrative across the other games, which or across the other teams that we won't get a chance to talk about in detail. First of all, to speak about Venezia, who sprung a surprise last weekend, being Empoli 2-1. And
thanks to us.
Thanks. Yeah, exactly. Thanks to us for getting the guest on. And up next for the Arancio Neraverdi, it's Spezia at home on Sunday, while Empoli will be facing Sampdoria at home. Sampdoria, who twice came from behind to draw 2-2 against Inter last weekend. Didn't get a chance to talk about that surprise result. And this weekend, Inter are going to be facing Bologna at home in the early evening Saturday kickoff. Fiorentina also have been reaffirming their growth under Italiano. It's been called a secret rebel base by some, with an impressive victory in a great game in Bergamo last weekend. Atalanta obviously looking to get their domestic season back on track after the European trip, with a trip to face Salernitana. And the Viola take on Genoa away in the early afternoon kickoff on Saturday. And finally, Lazio, who are looking to bounce back from their disappointment in Milan and in Istanbul when they take on Cagliari on Sunday. And the Sardinians let a 2-goal lead slip at home to Genoa last weekend, who ran out 3-2 winners. And on the note of Cagliari, they've parted ways with their manager Semplici in the wake of that result. And just one final managerial departure to mention, as Verona removed Baz's good old friend Di Francesco and replaced him with the 7th English king, Igor Tudor. So with that roundup out of the way...
Nicely wrapped up, Oscar.
Thank you.
If you look at Eusebio Di Francesco's career in reverse, it's an amazing career, because if he started off by beating Barcelona with this incredible... he started off by getting Sassuolo into Europe in 6th spot. Then he manages Roma and he gets them to beat Barcelona in this incredible comeback. And ever since then, it's just been a disaster.
Yeah, not been good.
Yeah, but what we should decide on is who has had a good week and who has had a bad week for the good week, bad week section.
Let's do it.
Yeah, there are a few candidates for good week, especially. We've talked about Napoli and Roma as potential title contenders. off the back of obviously both having pretty good weeks. Fiorentina could also be a candidate. Where's your vote going, Kenny?
Yeah, so you would think Roma, given that they've won their 2 games, but I mean, I think, and Fiorentina as well, it has to be said, were absolutely excellent in Bergamo. It was a great game, that one. Could have gone either way, really. I just feel like the difference in it was that one side got 2 penalties and one side got 1 penalty. But for me, it's going to be Napoli. Just that result against Juve, and again, that was coming from behind, showing real sort of guts and spirit to come back, and then to play Leicester off the park, unfortunately be down 2-0 because of 2 breakaway goals, and to bring that back and to just kind of never look like they were going to give up. It's Napoli for me. I think Napoli have been the most impressive side this week.
Yep, I'm leaning towards Napoli as well. Any last protest vibes before we give it to Napoli?
I think considering the opposition Napoli played, it definitely has to go to Napoli. While Roma had a stellar week, they did play Sassuolo and CSKA Sofia, and they didn't necessarily deserve to win against Sassuolo. So on the basis of the football on display, I'm giving it to Napoli for sure.
Good stuff. And what do you think about bad week? As Lazio, obviously, who you discussed earlier in the episode, definite candidate. Maybe Inter. Anyone else spring to mind?
I mean, we have to mention Cagliari again, because they did let a lead slip at home to Genoa, who are kind of a non-entity club, and so I mean, I would stick them in there. But
that's a bit harsh.
I mean, okay. Genoa are kind of this club that floats around and never does anything productive, and the signings don't make any sense.
Hang on, Buzz. Let me check if we've got any listeners from Genoa before you continue. No, you're fine. Carry on.
Yeah, so I mean, it's a strange little club, and I just don't understand their purpose in life. Much like I don't understand a few other clubs. So for that alone, and yet they won. So. But I think Lazio, it has to go to Lazio because of their disastrous performance in Milan, and then this ridiculous goal they conceded in Istanbul, and also their female side didn't do too well. So more about that later.
Okay.
There we go.
Happy with Lazio, Kenny?
Happy with Lazio, yeah, or unhappy with Lazio.
Yeah.
Yeah, but happy with Lazio getting bad week.
Good stuff. All right, Boaz. Keeping up with the Italians ought to be a very short section this week, I'd imagine, since next week there are no European games due to the mid-round. Well, not due to, but there is a mid-round week of Serie A games. So
I'm going to do this rapid fire, keeping up with the Italians. We have young Martin Montipo, who is an Italian playing in the Icelandic second division, and he scored the winner for his club Vestri Knattspian to eliminate the national champions Valur Futboli in the semi-final of the cup over there. So credit to him. Elsewhere, Andrea Bertolucci, a player who Milan once deemed worthy of spending 20 million on, scored a brace for Fatih Karagümrük in Turkey. Sorry if I'm butchering that. A club who is managed by Francesco Farioli, by the way. And staying with Italian managers abroad, we have Massimo Ficadenti, who managed to qualify Nagoma Grampus to the quarterfinals of the AFC Champions League. And lastly, this is kind of a shock honourable mention, but Matteo Mazzone of Wolfsburg in Germany scored off the kickoff in the Bundesliga Under-17 game against Hertha Zechlendorf. And I'm going to give him an honourable for the cheek of it.
Lovely. Well, you've got us started with the honourables, and I'll hand over to you, Kenny, because you've got a milestone honourable.
Yeah, well, it's actually an honourable for milestones, really. It's not our 1000th honourable mention or anything like that. But yes.
Well,
yes.
It might be, to be fair.
I'll get my people to check.
Right, so yeah, Bernardeschi for reaching 150 appearances for Juve, Insigne for reaching 400 appearances for Napoli, and Mourinho, who, as mentioned, reached 1,000 games in management. And also, while I'm here, we were intending to give Strakosha an early dishonourable. I don't know if we actually did, but if we did, just to reaffirm, for that awful mistake.
We did, yeah.
He gets a double.
Yeah, it might be worth a double.
Yeah, and Buzz, this is not a dishonourable, actually. This is an honourable for disobedience.
This seems to be a particularly Mourinho-heavy episode, but I'm giving a honourable for Roma defender Mancini, who, when Roma were leading 3-1, asked Mourinho, shall I go up for this corner? And Mourinho said, no, stay back. And then he legged it all the way up the pitch and managed to score and ran to hug the coach, who was cracking up. So it's all fun and games with Roma right now.
Yeah. While we're on the managers' mentions, Kenny, you've got an honourable for Spalletti.
Yeah, and while we're on the fun and games as well, this is for Spalletti's post-match conference after his post-match spat with Allegri in that game. Who he seemed genuinely bewildered in the press conference as to why Allegri had a problem with him, and then eventually just kind of got fed up with the questions. And basically, I mean, I'm kind of translating roughly, but basically just got fed up and went, "I've always lost, for fuck's sake. The one time I beat him, he has to give me a moral lecture." And yeah. Cue laughter from the journalists, but it was a wonderful moment. So yeah, honourable for Spalletti.
Lovely. I've got a nice amusing honourable as well. I saw somebody tweeting a picture. I forget which account it was, so sorry about that. But a picture of Jorginho playing for Chelsea, and you could just see the Azzurri shin pads showing through the white Chelsea socks with the Italian flag on. So an honourable for Ballon d'Or winner and European champion Jorginho.
Yeah, wears his heart on his shin, evidently.
Yeah, very good. Boaz, speaking of hearts, you've got an honourable for Valentina
Giacinti.
Yeah, I can't say that. Giacinti.
Yes, while Milan's 2-0 victory against Sarri's Lazio was rather impressive, the Milan Femminile 8-1 victory against Lazio Femminile was much more impressive, and Valentina Giacinti helped herself to a poker, as they say in Italy, which is 4 goals. So honourable mention to her.
Yeah, and on the goals honourables, Kenny, it's time for the obligatory goals honourable.
Yeah, gonna fire through these ones quickly. So I'm giving an honourable to Osimhen for the first goal against Leicester. Just unbelievable. The move leading up to the goal was wonderful. Really intricate, sort of quick passing, and then just wonderful first touch, lifting it over a defender and then poking it over Schmeichel as he came out. One for Leao for Milan's first against Lazio. Just like mazy run. And then when you thought sometimes players kind of get this urge to try and score the wonder goal, he kind of played the ball sideways and then was there to receive the return pass to tuck it in. Just a beautiful goal. El Shaarawy we've got to for Roma's 91st minute winner against Sassuolo, just an incredible strike at the death. And Okereke for Venezia's second against Empoli. It's another long dribble, mazy run. I had 3 Empoli defenders round him at one point, just outside the box, and then, as if he hadn't run 3/4 of the length of the pitch, just coolly dispatched the ball into the bottom corner. And finally for Augello for another fantastic volley, and for Sampdoria against the Inter. And we're not sure if he was an Inter fan as a boy, but
he's a Milan fan.
He was a Milan fan, right? A Milan fan as a boy, so he probably would have enjoyed that all the more in that case.
Make sure to look those up. And Buzz, you've got. Is this your last honourable?
Nah. I'm gonna keep going until you guys switch me off.
Okay. I thought the rest were dishonourables, but could be wrong.
Anyway,
one for Moratti.
Massimo Moratti is the former Inter president and walking advert for dental hygiene, and he donated his entire salary from his petrol company Saras to the workers who had been forced to go into unemployment due to COVID. So that's a really nice gesture, and it kind of apparently makes sure that they can keep afloat in this really difficult period.
Yeah, and I've got a serious and quite a sad dishonourable I have to give to Lazio and Atalanta fans for the racist chants that aimed at Bakayoko and Vlahovic. Just clear dishonourable.
Yeah, shame.
Yeah,
the shame.
And to lighten the mood though, Baz, we've got an honourable or a dishonourable for a cheeky Mihailovic.
Yeah, this is an honourable for one of our favorite coaches, Sinisa Mihajlovic, who was being interviewed before the Inter game on the weekend, and he was asked, you've kept 2 clean sheets in a row, and you have a hard game ahead of you against Inter, and he interrupted the journalist, and he's like, a hard game for us or for Inter? And that also garnered laughs all around.
Kenny, you wanted to give an honourable to Diego Milito for his comments on Romelu Lukaku.
Yeah. So this was just before the Real Madrid game. He was being interviewed by the Gazzetta and revealed that he very almost moved to Real, but that he couldn't bring himself to leave San Siro, basically. But yes, kind of telling it like it is really on Lukaku's departure from Inter. He said, "There's something you should never do. Promise something you can't deliver. It's fine for a player like him who gave so much to choose to go elsewhere. But the fans feel let down because of the declarations of love that he made." And I think fair point.
Yeah, certainly we feel let down on this podcast. So we can't watch them as regularly. I wanted to just give another dishonourable to the Inter social media team. Let me just read you a little bit of the way that they chose to announce their third kit. "We are often distant, by culture, by generation, or simply because we're divided by borders. There is no distance we Nerazzurri cannot close, because we are brothers and sisters of the world." Brothers and sisters of the world. That is a clear dishonourable. I don't think I need to say more.
This is marketing by AI. It must be a robot.
Okay. Well, as my brother of the world, would you like to give us the last honourable mention?
Yeah, this is an honourable mention for Fiorentina's reserve keeper, Pietro Terracciano. Fiorentina were having this fan call-in after their official interviews before the games, and Vincenzo Italiano was being interviewed, and Pietro Terracciano called in and asked if he was going to start the game on the weekend, to which Italiano jokingly said, "No, and I'm not even going to call you up now." Cheeky, honourable.
See you in my office on Monday morning.
Yeah, it's all smiles in front of the cameras, but someone's going to get a bollocking.
Nice.
Yeah, just like us. Anyway, that's all we have time for this week. If you don't already, please do subscribe to our podcast on Spotify or Apple Podcasts or wherever you get your audio. We'll speak to you again next week. Until then, enjoy the football.
Che sta decretando lo scudetto del Milan in questo preciso istante. La Juventus è campione d'Italia questa data, il 6 maggio.
Di anticipo, la Roma è campione d'Italia per la stagione 2000-2001. Il titolo
del